Alright, just received a package in the mail. New gauges that I'm going to be installing in my 1999 Civic EX. And this is similar for other Civic models. The kit that I got, I'll show you here, included a gauge so it will work in an automatic. I will not be needing this one. It's got the speedometer, tachometer, and fuel and temperature gauges. Also comes with the controller, which essentially this just lights up if it's on. It's got an on-off switch, and this adjusts the brightness. I'm going to tuck this up under the dash out of the way. Also in the package, some very poorly translated instructions, which won't be needing. That's the purpose of this video. I'm going to show you how to do it, because those are pretty much useless. Alright, first step, move to the car, take out the gauges that are in there. Alright, we're in the car. Very easy. Up here, 1, 2 Phillips head bolts or Phillips head screws. Take those out. Once you take those out, carefully pry this out of its clips and then remove it. Behind here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 Phillips head screws. Take all of those out. Alright, once you get those out, this becomes loose. Carefully turn it out. And you'll want to go ahead and remove all your wiring harnesses carefully. What I suggest is to work on one side and then do the other. Up here on the top. One second, let me put the camera down while I get that. Okay. Then I'm going to spin it around to the other side. Make sure we got everything. That looks like all of it. So I have to move the wheel down a little bit. And we have it free of the dashboard. Now's the time. I went ahead and replaced, it's this here, all the brown here, 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 and here, and then these two bulbs up here. I went ahead and replaced them with LED bulbs. Really, it won't matter too much because they won't show through, but the reason I did it was so that the numbers would illuminate like a bright, clear LED. Alright, so the next step will be on the bench. Take this someplace comfortable where you can work on it, because we're going to have to disassemble the whole cluster. Alright, after you get the cluster over to someplace you can work on it, what you're going to need to do is, it's real simple. You need to take the black clips all along the edge, take them out. So you're going to push them out. You might need to use a little flat blade screwdriver. And before you do that, go ahead and disconnect this wire and move it up out of the way, because it's connected to the front here. And once you remove all the black plastic clips, this will lift off the gauges. Alright, once you get all the tabs loose, this will just lift off. It isn't necessary to take off the clear screen first, but all along the bottom you do also have to take out the clear tabs where they snap into the white plastic. So if it's easier, you can take out the clear plastic separately first. I'm going to take it apart, clean it, take it off of here, clean all this really good. And then here's what we're left with. This little overlay comes off. Pull it off the tabs carefully. And that comes off. Now would be a good time if you have access to a junkyard part to replace this piece. A lot of times the little things that the stuff shines through there, that the lights shine through, they wear down and start to look bad on some cars. This one isn't too bad, just a high beam indicator, but not enough to worry about it. And here's what we're left with. We're ready to start working. So once you're to this stage, then you need to go and take off the small Phillips head screws all the way across. And all these over here. And just take the screws out. Remember where they were from. And then you'll also need to take, well, let me check on that. We'll start with just taking the screws out. Alright, we've got all the screws out. You do not need to take the needles out that they set on. It will fit with those on there. Alright, so the next step is for us to lay down our gauge faces and see where we're going to need to trim wiring. So, helps if you kind of on where there's just a single needle. This one's going to be the tricky one over here. This one's with a single needle. You just carefully get this up in a position. I can work with it here. Where you can get the needle through the center started. And then you slide it down on there. And carefully slip it over the back. Don't want to break anything. Here we are. Alright, so as you can see, we've got that one installed. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the screws back in to hold it in place. Actually, before I put the screws back in, what I'll do is I'll mark. We're going to have to cut out a little notch for this wiring to hang through the bottom. We're going to have to do that with all the gauges. So now's the time where it's a little loose. You can lift it up to get it out of the way. So just carefully mark an area to cut. I'm just going to take a pair of needle nose pliers. Which may or may not work so well. Alright. That's all that took. So now when it's put back together, that will have room to come out in between there without pinching off the wires. Alright, so now we got the first one in. We'll go ahead and get this second one put in here. Actually, let's go ahead and mark the position. I'm going to go ahead and mark the position and trim that out first. So I went and did the same thing over here. Used a pair of needle nose pliers to just trim out a little piece there. Get the gauge started on the needle, and then carefully snap it down into position. Okay. Once you get everything lined up, put your screws back in. You basically have to center up the old gauge face underneath with the new gauge face, and then what it's being mounted to. And there's like alignment guides on here so you can see that it's in the right spot. Make sure you don't tighten it too much. You don't want to damage your gauge faces. Just till it's barely snug. Alright, so now the wire's got a spot to pass through. Now for the tricky one. So I'm going to put the camera down for a second. But I'd say if you put both needles in the same general direction, it's going to be your best approach here. And don't worry, it will go back to where it needs to when you turn the car on. Alright, you can see I kind of turned both gauges up. Get it slid on there. And around. And honestly, the only one where there was any kind of tension getting it on was the speedometer, as you saw, trying to get it snapped over there. These other ones have been pretty easy. So, get that in position. Put the fuel gauge a little bit closer to where it was. It was about half a tank. And then we'll get this screwed down. Got my little spot punched out over here with the needle nose pliers. Alright, let me get this screwed down. Be right back. Alright, so got everything on. It looks very nice. Next thing I'm going to do, set this into position. Really get an idea what it's going to look like now. It's going to look great. Alright, so once I get that set into position, I'm going to go ahead and clean this up. So just make sure you don't use Windex or something with ammonia in it. It'll scratch the lens. Use something made for like automotive purposes. And I'm going to clean the inside and the outside of this, and then we'll get that snapped back into position. Alright, after you get everything cleaned up, what I would recommend doing is snapping the black plastic in first into all of its tabs. And make sure that there's no smudges or dust or debris on here, because you won't be able to clean that once you get the plastic cover on. Once you get this snapped down into place, then you can snap on your clear cover. Alright, to clean the inside of it, I'm going to wait and clean the outside once I get this one snapped in place. Alright, I've got that snapped into place. I'm going to clean the outside. We'll be ready to go back to the car. Alright, I've relocated back to the car. Got this clean, all except for this unidentified splooge, which is in the plastic. Tools you'll probably need: a pair of wire cutters, some tape, razor, maybe a pair of needle nose pliers, depending on how we want to do this. What we want to do is we want to splice into the wiring, the parking light wiring, and to do that, you cannot just wire it directly up to the dimmer switch circuit, because you don't want to be able to, if you were to dim this down, it lowers the voltage going to the lights on the dash, and if it was connected to that, it would cause erratic operation of the transformer for the EL glow, or it would cause it to destroy it. So we need to connect it directly to a 12 volt source that is always 12 volts whenever the parking lights are on. So we're going to find that right now. Alright, so here we are. You'll want to carefully, with a screwdriver, pry out your register here. That's got your, this is your dimmer slider. And because there's clips on the bottom that hold it into the dash. You want to be careful not to break those. You want to get under that screwdriver and pry them up to get this out. On the back of the switch, there's 3 wires. There's the black wire in the middle, which is the negative. You have this red wire on the driver's side here with the black stripe. That's your 12 volts in when you turn the switch, the parking light's on. And this is your output wire over here. So the 2 wires you want to tap into are the 2 on the left if you're sitting in the car. So the red with the black stripe is going to be your positive, and the center one, this black one here, is going to be your negative. So go ahead and splice into these. And if you want to use one of those, crimp lock connectors, you can do that. I really don't recommend them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shave a little bit of the wire off with a razor blade, splice it in there correctly, and then tape it all up. Alright, I got the wires properly connected, soldered, and taped. I'm going to go ahead and plug them back in. And then for now, well, you have to decide what you want to do to hide all this. It has double-sided tape on it. For now, I'm just going to stick it in here. There's actually a good little spot for it right there. So you basically just want to tuck everything out of the way where it's not going to flop around and get on anything. You can zip tie some stuff up. Got that tucked. And then I ran the little controller. I don't really, once I get this set, I'm not really too worried about it. But I guess it would be nice to be able to, be able to control it if you needed to. So I just ran, there's a little gap between the dash and the wheel right here. I'm going to stick it right down back. So as you can see, back behind the steering stalk here. And I'll be able to adjust the brightness of the dash when I want to. So that should work good. Get that just right up in there. Double-sided tape. Let's see. Take your wiring that you'll need to plug in. Get it routed right over here. And get that where I want it. Go ahead and snap this back in over here. Tops put in first. Bottoms. Right. Got that back in there. And now we're ready to connect everything up. So in the harness they give you, there's 4 ports. And I guess it's just universal for different instrument clusters because you only need to use 3 of them. So make your connections. Connect obviously your instrument cluster wires to these wires. And then I'm going to kind of make it neat and, zip tie the wires together out of the way and then tuck everything neatly inside of there. I'll be right back. All right, now once you get everything neatly zip tied up, just go ahead and reconnect all your harnesses where they came out of. And then once you get all your wiring, carefully position your instrument cluster back in place. Make sure you don't get any of the wiring pinched up. And then we're going to put our screws back in to hold it down. Got my 4 screws in. I'm going to put the bezel back in place here. Snapped in. And then there's 2 more screws to put back in the top. And we'll be back together. Alright, so I've moved into a garage so we can test this out. Go ahead and turn off the light in here. Turn on the parking lights. Get to focus. Yeah, there's our finished product. Man, I tell you, it looks better than it does on the camera. It's almost like a grayish blue. Now the camera's not really picking it up. But the LEDs behind the dash that I put in really set it off. And then you can flip the, there's what it looks like with it off. It's just the gauge lights that the LEDs in the top of the dash that are shining down. There it is, turned on. And like I said, you can adjust the brightness to whatever you need. Yeah, so there's the finished product. Looks great. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, if it helped you out. And I'll leave a link to the product. I got these on eBay for about $50, so I'll leave a link to that. Thanks.